The house stood on the corner where the street narrowed just enough to slow every passerby, though few noticed the shift in pace, and even fewer looked up. Its windows were tall and slender, veiled behind heavy linen curtains that never moved, never shifted, never gave away the life that pulsed quietly inside, except on certain mornings, when the light broke differently, and the fabric stirred just slightly, like a breath held too long. She lived there. Alone, but not entirely. Her days were shaped not by time, but by patterns, the soft rhythm of ritual that asked nothing loud, required no affirmation. She rose early, always before the sun crested the hill behind the rooftops, moving through the still air of her rooms as if guided by the soundless memory of someone else's footsteps. She boiled water. She set the table. She folded the same blanket over the same armrest. Nothing ever changed. Except for the curtains. On most days, they remained closed, not drawn with bitterness, not shut with the weight of fear, but simply left untouched, like pages in a book that one reads not by turning, but by remembering. The world outside held no urgency, and the light that pressed gently against the linen was enough to know that morning had arrived. She did not need more. But on certain days, not marked on a calendar, not predicted by weather or occasion, she would walk to the window at the front of the house, slowly, with care, and pull back the edge of the curtain just enough to let in a sliver of sky, a portion of the street, and, in time, a figure. He passed by without hesitation, always in the same direction, always with the same pace that was neither hurried nor idle, a man who carried himself like someone who did not belong to any particular place but had chosen, inexplicably, to return to this one again and again. She never knew his name. And he, perhaps, did not know hers, or even that she watched. He never looked up. Or rather, he looked up only on days when the curtains were drawn. And she only drew the curtains on days when he walked by. It was not certainty. Not logic. More like intuition, or perhaps something older than that, a thread pulled quietly through the fabric of mornings, unnoticed by the world but undeniable to the hand that held it. Sometimes she opened them wide, not entirely, but enough to let the light spill into the room and wash over the wooden floor, reaching the edge of the table, the spine of a book left open by chance. Other times, she lifted just one corner, enough to see the curve of his shoulder, the rise and fall of his coat, the angle of his head as he passed the post with the chipped white paint where children once tied ribbons. He never stopped. Never slowed. But something in the way he moved told her that he sensed it, the window, the gaze, the weight of a silence neither of them had broken and neither of them had chosen to end. The days he did not come, the curtains stayed shut. She would linger near them, sometimes placing her hand gently on the fabric, as if listening for a signal that had not arrived. On those mornings, the light felt duller, the walls a shade quieter, though nothing, in truth, had changed. It had started in spring, she thought. Or perhaps before that. It was hard to say. There was no beginning, not really. Just a shift, one morning, a moment, a glance, and after that, the curtains had learned when to stay closed and when to move. She never told anyone. There was no one to tell. And even if there had been, how would she explain it? That her days now followed the trace of someone else's footsteps? That her house, so still and orderly, now breathed in time with a man who never knocked, never called, never even turned his head? No. It was not a story. It was a silence. One that unfolded slowly, like the soft creak of floorboards beneath a memory, like the hush that comes before rain. And she did not mind it. She had grown used to quiet things. The seasons shifted gently, almost without permission, and the street began to carry the scent of fallen leaves and colder light, the kind that arrives without warning and lingers longer on window panes that remember the warmth of earlier days. Inside the house, everything remained in place, the chair, the folded blanket, the empty cup beside the unopened book, and yet something imperceptible had begun to gather, a sense of weight behind each movement, a quietness that was no longer neutral but listening. She opened the curtains less often now, not because she no longer wanted to, but because the rhythm between them had started to falter, not break, not end, but thin, like thread worn from repetition, fragile at the edges. He passed less frequently. Once every few days. Then, only on Tuesdays. Then not even that. She noticed without marking the dates. She felt it the way one feels a change in temperature, slowly, subtly, with a delayed understanding that arrives only after it settles in the bones. The first morning he did not come, she left the curtains open until noon. The next time, only until the light grew flat. Then she returned to closing them altogether, though her hand always hovered at the fabric longer than necessary. But when he did appear again, weeks later, his presence carried a different tone, not unfamiliar, not distant, but slowed, as if the gravity that held him to this street had weakened, and he moved through it like someone already half gone. His steps were the same, his coat a darker shade, his eyes still steady and low, but she knew, without needing to see his face clearly, that something had shifted behind it. That day, she had not planned to open the curtains. It was cold, and the air inside felt heavier than usual. But as she passed by the window, her hand brushing the edge of the linen more out of memory than intention, something inside her paused. A moment. An instinct. And she drew back the fabric slowly, letting the pale gray spill over the room, just in time to see him reach the corner. He looked up. It was brief, less than a breath, and his gaze did not linger. But it met hers. Not directly. Not forcefully. Just enough.